Today, we're diving deep into the Aquarium Iceberg, a breakdown of the many different types of tanks in the fish keeping hobby, from the everyday setups nearly every aquarist has owned, all the way down to tanks so rare they're usually found only in public aquariums or in the homes of millionaires. Some of these will be nostalgic, others a little weird, and a few might even blow your mind. Let's start at level 1, very common. Betta tanks. Betta fish are practically the mascot of beginner aquariums. Everyone's seen them, usually in tiny cups at train stores. And for a lot of people, a betta is their first fish. The sad part? Most of those setups are too small, unfiltered, and unheated, even though bettas need warm, clean water. But when you set one up right, like a planted 5-gallon with soft lighting and slow current, they become surprisingly interactive. People even hand feed them or teach them tricks. It's no surprise that bettas are how a lot of aquarists got started. Goldfish tanks. Goldfish are another childhood classic, but they're also probably one of the most misunderstood fish in the hobby. They're sold as if they're tiny and low maintenance, but goldfish can grow to the size of your hand and live over a decade. They need big tanks, heavy filtration, and cold, oxygen-rich water. And forget about aquascaping. These guys will uproot anything you plant. Still, they have a charm to them, especially the fancier varieties. Fish bowls. These are iconic but super outdated. Everyone's either had one or seen one, usually with a single betta or goldfish and zero filtration. They're often used as decorations more than actual homes for fish, but in reality, fish bowls are really hard to maintain. Water fouls quickly, oxygen is limited, and most fish end up suffering. A lot of aquarists have moved past this style, but it's still part of the history of the hobby. Less than 10-gallon tanks. Small tanks are attractive because they're cheap. They fit anywhere and they look simple. But the irony is, the smaller the tank, the harder it is to maintain. Parameters swing fast. One missed water change and you've got a disaster. These tanks are great for nanofish or shrimp, if you know what you're doing. For beginners, they're a lesson in patience and precision. Planted tanks. This is usually where the obsession kicks in. Once someone sees how peaceful and vibrant a planted tank can be, they're hooked. It starts with easy plants. Anubias, Java fern, maybe some hornwort. And the next thing you know, they're dosing fertilizers and injecting CO2. What makes planted tanks special is their living systems. The plants aren't just decorations. They're part of the filtration, the habitat, the aesthetic. It becomes an art form. Small community tanks. These are 10 to 20 gallon setups with peaceful fish like neon tetras, guppies, and corydoras. It's a step up from a single fish tank. People experiment with stocking combos, adding snails or shrimp, maybe trying out live plants. It's a beginner-friendly zone, but it also teaches some important lessons about compatibility, aggression, and bioload. Moving on to level 2. Common. 10 to 40 gallon tanks. This range is where most people find their stride. You've got enough room to play with layouts, try out multiple species, and really commit to a proper cycle. People usually invest in better filters and lighting here. The tanks look cleaner, fish behave more naturally, and maintenance becomes a manageable routine instead of a guessing game. African cichlid tanks. These are aggressive, colorful fish that do best in hard water. The first time someone sees a male peacock cichlid flaring his fins in full breeding color, that's a wow moment. But the aggression is real. These tanks are all about territory, rockwork, and overstocking to spread out hostility. People usually build these tanks for behavior and color rather than plant life, since cichlids love to dig. South American cichlid tanks. More peaceful, but no less interesting. Think angelfish, geos, and servrums. They live in softer water and often pair well with live plants and schooling tetras. These tanks are more about balance and community than dominance. A lot of people build biotope tanks at this stage, using driftwood, leaf litter, and tannins. Shrimp tanks. Shrimp tanks are a whole different vibe. They're small, quiet, and absolutely mesmerizing to watch. Keeping shrimp, especially Neocaridina, teaches you how sensitive aquatic life really is. They're picky about water quality, hate sudden changes, and need stable temperatures. Once they start breeding though, it's incredibly rewarding. You feel like you've built a self-sustaining little world. Level 3, Uncommon. 40 to 125 gallon tanks. At this size, everything changes. You're no longer just buying fish, you're planning ecosystems. The tanks are heavy, the stands are custom or reinforced, and maintenance becomes a real weekly task. But the benefits? Stable parameters, natural behavior, and the ability to house bigger or more complex species. This is the size range where tanks start dominating a room, and where fish keeping becomes part of your lifestyle. Turtle tanks. These setups blur the line between aquarium and terrarium. Turtles are messy, powerful swimmers that need both land and water. You need strong filtration, basking platforms, and UV lighting. A lot of people underestimate how much work they are. And if you don't have a lid, good luck, they will climb. Freshwater predator tanks. This is where you start seeing fish like Oscars, arowanas, and bichers. These tanks are less about beauty and more about raw power and personality. Predator fish tend to interact with you, follow you around the tank, and recognize feeding routines, but they're messy, aggressive, and need large setups. So it's not for the casual hobbyist. Shell dweller tanks. These tiny African cichlids live in snail shells and behave like bulldogs. They're fiercely territorial even in a 10-gallon tank. Watching them dig, move shells, and raise fry is like observing a colony of underwater ants. Super niche, but very rewarding for those who are interested. Pea puffer tanks. Small but mighty. Pea puffers are adorable and full of personality, but they're pure carnivores and very aggressive. Even in a species-only tank, you have to watch out for fin nipping, and a whole lot of people try to add them to community tanks and end up regretting it. But in a well-scaped nano tank, they're amazing to watch. Blackwater tanks. These are built to mimic the slow-moving, tannin-stained waters of the Amazon or Southeast Asia. Think dim lighting, driftwood, leaf litter, and soft, acidic water. The challenge is keeping the water parameters stable without traditional clear water as your visual cue. But for some fish, like tetras and apistos, this is their ideal environment, and their colors look insane under the right lighting. One fish only tanks. Flower horns, facada puffers, giant gouramis. These are the kinds of fish that demand a tank all to themselves. Not because they're lonely, but because they're territorial monsters. These tanks aren't about diversity, they're about bonding with one high maintenance fish, Think of it like owning a wet dog that lives in glass. Level 4, Rare. Mixed reef tanks. These tanks combine soft corals, LPS, SPS, and a wide range of fish. It's a juggling act. You're balancing calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, nutrients, lighting, flow, and livestock compatibility all at once. The reward? A tank that glows like a sci-fi movie. Soft reef tanks. A little easier than mixed reefs, these tanks focus on soft corals like mushrooms, leathers, and zoas. They're more forgiving and usually the first step into reef keeping. Still, water chemistry matters. It's like trying to keep a garden inside a glass cube where everything is floating. Refugiums are side compartments or tanks connected to the main system. They grow macroalgae, stabilize nutrients, and house copepods. They're like an underground utility system that helps keep everything running cleanly behind the scenes. 125 to 220 gallon tanks. These tanks start taking over entire walls. You need special stands, water changing systems, and maybe even floor support depending on your house. The upside? You can keep large schools, big cichlids, or even fully stocked reef with room to spare. Discus are large community tanks. Discus are gorgeous, but demanding. They need warm, clean water and don't tolerate fluctuations. Keeping them with other fish means strict quarantine and compatibility checks, but when done right, it's like watching butterflies float in a jungle river. Level 5, very rare. Invert-only tanks. These are tanks built for things like vampire shrimp, rare crayfish, or mantis shrimp. Some are legal in certain regions, and others require species-specific setups. The detail needed to keep them happy is on another level. Salinity, hiding spots, prey items, lighting, you name it. Brackish tanks. Brackish water is that salty middle ground between freshwater and marine. It's not just a blend. You need precision, and not every plant or fish can adapt. Green spotted puffers and archerfish are classic residents. The tricky part? Finding accurate care info. It's a bit of a lost art. Polydariums. These setups combine land and water in one tank. Think frogs, crabs, and semi-aquatic lizards living with fish. You need misting systems, land slopes, and careful planning to avoid mold or standing water. When done right, they're like a slice of rainforest in your room. 220 to 300 gallon tanks. Now we're talking custom builds. These tanks are hundreds of pounds empty. You need help just to move the glass. They're usually built into walls with dedicated plumbing and sumps. And maintenance? It's a weekly ritual. But they're showstoppers. Macroalgae or saltwater plant tanks. Extremely niche. These tanks showcase marine algae species, some of which are more sensitive than coral. Lighting has to be tuned, nutrients is balanced, and herbivores carefully selected. It's a science project in a saltwater box. Saltwater predator tanks. Eels, lionfish, groupers. Beautiful, dangerous, and often venomous. These tanks are all about feeding rituals and territorial dynamics. Coral usually isn't included because these fish are messy and will eat anything that moves. Frag only or coral grow out tanks. Usually hidden in someone's fish room, these tanks exist solely to grow coral frags. The lighting is intense, the water is pristine, and the goal is mass propagation. These setups feel more like a lab than a display tank. Level 6, insanely rare. Caiman and gator tanks. Yeah, people do this. Very few. It's illegal in a lot of places, expensive everywhere else, and honestly, dangerous. You need mass filtration, fencing, heating, and a vet who knows reptiles. Definitely not for 99.9% of people. Shark tanks. Small species like bamboo or epaulette sharks are sometimes kept in a custom marine setup, usually several hundred gallons, minimum. You need sandy bottoms, open swim space, and a crazy filtration system to handle the bioload. Just feeding these fish feels like running a zoo. Saltwater ponds and pools. These setups are more like outdoor installations. Some public aquariums use converted swimming pools. Maintaining temperature, salinity, and cleanliness on this scale is borderline commercial, but when you see it in action, it's mesmerizing. Porpoise tanks. Only for massive facilities, marine parks, or research centers. You're dealing with intelligent animals that need space, enrichment, and constant monitoring. Not even most aquariums can house these properly. Whale shark tanks. Currently, only a handful of aquariums in the world, like the Georgia Aquarium, have managed to house whale sharks. The tank volume, over 6 million gallons. That's the size of a small building. It's the literal peak of what humanity can do for marine life. Tanks over 1,000 gallons. Anything over 1,000 gallons is a piece of architecture. You're talking reinforced floors, dedicated plumbing, backup generators, and even maybe a staff. At this point, it's not a hobby. It's a full-time job or a public attraction. And there you have it. From beginner-friendly tanks we all know and love, to the deep, mysterious layers of public displays and high-tech ecosystems. Our dive into the Aquarium Iceberg has shown just how vast and wild this hobby can get. Whether you're just getting started with guppies and gravel, or dreaming of saltwater reefs and biotope masterpieces, every level has its own magic. If you made it all the way to the bottom with me, I'd love to know, what level are you at right now? Or better yet, what level are you aiming for? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed the dive, and if you love stories from the aquarium world, consider subscribing. I've got some wild projects brewing, and trust me, you won't want to miss out on what's coming next. Until then, stay curious, stay creative, and keep your hands wet.